Welcome to the Cash Flow Project Podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Project. I'm your host, Duc Ong with Tri-City Equity Group. With me is my co-host, Vince Gethings. Today we have Mike Taravella on the show. He is a CPA with a Master of Science in Accounting from Michigan State University. He has worked professionally in accounting for 5 years, starting with Ernst & Young in public accounting, and then transitioned into Detroit's startup community at Rock Ventures. He began his real estate investing career in 2016 by owning and self-managing investments in Michigan. He joined Rand Partners in 2019 as an associate responsible for underwriting deals, investor relations, and asset management. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, Duke, thank you so much. Vince, thank you for having me. Super excited to be on and help your listeners and just talk about real estate.
All right. So how did you get started in your journey to earn passive cash flow?
So for me, it was I was at Ernst & Young, and I realized working 80 hours a week that I got to earn some other way of income by not doing more work. I kind of fell into the Bigger Pockets loophole or the podcast and went down that rabbit hole. And especially when I'd have to drive 6 hours to Muncie, Indiana, across the state to just do audits. And I was like, this is lots of process. So it got my gears going. And then even towards the end of my career at Ernst & Young, I pulled the trigger and executed on getting his first single family. And then a year later, got a second one. But then when working with Dan Gilbert startups, I was telling them how to scale their businesses, but I wasn't doing the same for my real estate investing. So I realized there had to be another way because I'd waited a full year just to get enough equity to put down in a house. So then I realized multifamily, went on Bigger Pockets, found a mentor, and he's like, your classic rule as a kid growing up of don't talk to strangers on the internet. He said, hey, I'm having an event in Chicago. You should come. It's all about multifamily. So I went to it and it changed the game for me, opened my mindset. And so I moved to Chicago to be closer to this mentor, John Kasman. And then for me, it was just, helping him provide as much value. And then I gained, I was offering my service for free, underwriting and whatnot, and marketing. And so then I eventually got the call with Rand Partners, was Jake Stenziano, Gino Barbaro, Jake and Gino, Vince repping the gear. Now we're here. I've been here a year and a half. We've helped grow with 4 acquisitions, probably around $15 million, and looking to expand the portfolio a little bit more every day. So that's the long story short of finding the passive cash flow.
So what made you give up a comfortable salary working with the large accounting firms to a more entrepreneurial career path?
I started a screen printing business in college, so I always knew I wanted to do something different. But I realized, I took a step back and realized, what do I want to start? And people, Gino Barbaro says people need food, clothing, and apartments. And so I knew that real estate arm was going to be a big piece. Because as much as I loved screen printing for like 16 hours a day while going to class in college and studying the CPA, I just knew I wanted a different track and I wanted to own my finances. So the day-to-day was good, but the trap of the W-2 job is the scariest part. So for me, I wanted a little bit more control of my life. So I just wanted to go outside of that realm, and especially because my mom's a teacher, and my grandma's a teacher, and everyone else worked for Chrysler. So when I got my first rental property, they cried because they said I was going to lose all my money. But when I realized that wasn't the case, I just started thinking more and more entrepreneurial. And now we're doing apartments. And even today, my mom goes, it's still a risky business to invest in apartments. And I was like, I don't think you know what I do every day, Mom. So it's a funny story.
That paradigm shift, I remember that too. Being in the military, we have probably the most secure salary in the country. We get paid pretty much always. Like the military is not going to ever not get paid. And I used to think that was a really good thing. And then I started getting into real estate and all these other things, all these other entrepreneurial endeavors. And then now I look at it as almost like a death sentence. Like the thought of just a steady paycheck at what that has a cap on it. Right. So it's like you said, your family has teachers. It's very much like this is going to be your paycheck and it's going to be stable. But this is all it will ever be for the next 20, 30 years. And like, once that hits me, I'm like, oh my God, like that is like soul crushing. That like you can see like in with military pay, like I can go to a table, right? It's because it's the fiscal law that gets published every year. I can go to the table and I can see exactly down to the cent what like my absolute max earning potential will be. And I'm like, that is just being able to see it. Like that's the cap. I will never be able to achieve more than that in this career field. And just seeing that was like, yeah, it was really soul crushing. I was like, I need to do something else. Like I feel like I have more offer. So that's
the time aspect, right? Like you could work, like for me, it was seeing partners every day calling their families at like 10 o'clock at night saying, all right, love you, good night. And then they're still working with us till like midnight, 1 a.m. And I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to work 80, 90, 100 plus hours my whole life just to get to maybe a partner status where I'm working just as long to maybe get that. I wanted to take more control in my realm. And so like Vince, like when you see that time, I'm sure you see that number, it's a larger number than now, but that time aspect that you have to dedicate to is just like insane. When you take a step back and you're like, whoa, this is, so that's even scarier.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like how many, weekends I have to give up and all those things and those 12, 14-hour day shifts just to be able to get the opportunity to achieve that, right? That max. And then that's all that it'll ever be, is you can see it there black and white. But yeah, that's awesome. You're able to kind of see that and like have that paradigm shift decades before most people do.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a blessing. And even then it's all who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And because even when I was earlier in my career, everyone goes, who wouldn't want to invest with you? And I was like, I'm just trying to get a single family house. Like I'm not trying to get millions of dollars yet, but it was just like, who would want to invest with you? How would you make it work of all people? And it's just quickly, once I moved to Chicago, the game, it was like a recess of just everyone's trying to hustle and get out and, earn as much passive income as possible. So it was just cool it was hard getting out, but once you got out and into your own backyard, it was fun times. And now we're here today talking shop on a Sunday, living the dream. So
absolutely.
So tell us about the most recent deal that you were involved in. How did you find it and structure it?
Yeah, so just outside of Knoxville, there's a 48 unit. A broker in Chattanooga reached out to us. She was a residential broker. It was half occupied. It was all coming off a USDA affordability contract. So it was very ran down because the previous owners ran out of money. So instead of turning units, they just said, nope, we got no more money. If the HVAC broke, they put in a window AC unit. And so we just internally tackled it down just because, one, we had to pay cash. It was a $1.95 million cash offer. We did that because we wanted to make a really strong offer. And on top of that, just lock it in. We didn't want to mess around, especially anything in the Tennessee market. We've seen anything under 50 units, probably around that $3 million range, people were paying cash for, especially money coming from New York coming down and California coming in. So we knew we had to lock it up quick. So for speed of the game, and then we refinanced it to Community Bank this past, I'd say 2 weeks or so. And so we refinanced the proceeds out and helped us get a bigger capital budget so that we could turn units. We knew coming in it was going to be rough, but we had our flooring team come in, and at the beginning of November, we're at 11 units turned, and our occupancy just got into the 60s. So yeah, we just did a JV deal just because of the speed of the game. So Jake, Gino, our team got involved and just helped kind of make everyone think like owners when it comes to buying stuff. Like, yeah, it's rough, but when you have a piece of it, you start thinking more like an owner. So our property management team got to invest in it as well. So it's a fun project. It's we already replaced roofs on 2 of the buildings, repaved the parking lot because there's a huge crater in it. So our maintenance tech last week when we saw him was literally tap dancing on the brand new floors of the building, saying, "I can't believe how much work you've done to help the community and really just make a name for ourselves." So it's been a cool project to see very quickly, and can't make the story up.
Nice. And we did a deal review in where were we just now? Orlando? No.
Jacksonville?
Jacksonville. Yeah. Yeah. It's been a crazy.
Florida. It's all the same.
We were in Florida and you did a deal review on this deal, and definitely an awesome deal. I liked how you took it on as a JV. And the important thing is, like, a lot of people think like syndication is like our real estate investing is like kind of like a pyramid, where like syndication's like the end all be all, like the pinnacle of investing strategies. And I keep telling people, like, no, it's not. That's just one tool. That's one strategy. If the deal fits, or if the deal warrants, that'll be the strategy you use. If you can take it down with a JV, do that, because it's infinitely easier to JV a deal than to syndicate a deal. So it's all about being experienced in all these different strategies and make sure you can check the box and owner financing and master lease options, like what Bill Ham was teaching us, and things like a syndication, JV structures and things like that. Because like each deal, you want to like put it through filter, like what's the least path of resistance to close this deal? And, you know, if you can do a JV, like go for it. It'll be so much easier.
Yeah. And every person, that's a good point of like the syndication, every person you add on adds more entropy. So that person might not like that piece and it's just chaos. And then you got to, where's your money? We're closing tomorrow. It just, so many different things can happen. Yeah. So just asking yourself, can I tackle it as a JV? Is it a bigger deal where I need to raise? Is it legal how I'm structuring it as a JV versus syndication? So that's a great point, Vince, of, you know, people think syndication, I get 300 units, but you own a small piece on top of having to deal with 100 investors. And you get, you know, I love our investors, but sometimes it's just wild questions and stuff like that. So it's just important to really make sure you have the right tool to get the job done.
Absolutely. Better way to think about acquisition is to think about it through that lens versus like, I need to syndicate and get as many doors as possible. That's more of like an ego thing.
You get to own more doors with JV. We promise.
Yeah.
So what's your exit plan with that property?
So we're looking probably 18 months refi. Our strategy is more buy and hold kind of forever. So we've cut in our teeth on a lot of older products. So even though it was kind of the interiors were beat down, it was a 1984 build. So check the box, had more 2s and 1s, which check the box. We knew we were going in, the roofs were shot, so we knew kind of just to prepare on the front end. We always reassess, but we're trying to refinance all our capital in 18 to 24 months, depending on what the financing environment looks like. And then from there, you know, reassess. Do we need to hold? Should we hold it? Should we sell it? In that particular town, it's not a huge city by means, but it's next to the Lowe's, next to all the shopping centers, next to the restaurants. So we love the area. So for us, we bought it low. We bought it right. We're seeing, we finance right first now, and we're seeing what the next refinance looks like. And then we're managing it right, just turning units and providing a high level of customer service for our residents every day.
All right. So what is one obstacle that you face in your journey as an investor, and how did you overcome it?
I think it's the mindset, right? As cliche as it sounds, obviously when you're doing it, you're like, all right, but like I said, my mom cried when I got my first rental. Coworkers were like, who would trust you with their money? You don't know what you don't know. And it's just, there's so many obstacles of no. But I think it just surround yourself. How I overcame it was surrounding myself with the people who are like, let's figure this out. Let's do this. I think right now it's just in our environment. I think it's I was told to do accounting because my job was safe. That job will never go anywhere. But like Vince and I said, it's a trap. So just get whatever you want to do, figure out the people who can do it, follow them, provide value to them. Don't ask them how to provide value. Just go out and do stuff, whether it's underwriting, marketing. If you got a drone, fly it to their properties and give them a marketing reel. Just add value to them, so then you can learn, help them grow their business, get that experience, and then you can do it yourself. So surround yourself with the right people and follow the mentor that you truly value and want to do, and just don't listen to anyone else. Don't listen to Instagram. Don't listen to Facebook. Just kind of head down, keep grinding, and have fun with it.
I do a lot of in my day job, right? As you know, I do a lot of like professional development, and I'm dealing with a lot of younger, early 20s.
The most mature people on the earth.
Absolutely, yes, a lot of early 20s, and I'm trying to get them into the mindset of like, a lot of your friends are probably not good for you. Like if you have any kind of aspirations at all, you should probably get around a new set of friends, because the ones that either they're going to do it maliciously, like you said, like who like who would trust you to do with their money and things like that, or you can't do that. You're not smart enough to do that. So that's like malicious group of friends. But then there's the other side of group of friends, like, they put on the face like, oh, we love you so much, we don't want to see you get hurt. Like, don't try to like where your mom was talking about, right? Like, that's too risky. Be safe, stay here with us, and like that's just as bad as far as like you trying to achieve goals or try to grow yourself and everything like that. Is like I do a lot of like, look around your friends. If they're not driving you to help you achieve a goal and holding you accountable for the goal, like you need to slowly back away from that group of friends and find yourself a new group of friends or peers or accountability groups, things like that. Because they're gonna hold you down either maliciously or with love, but either way, it's the same thing. And a lot of time, years go by before you realize that you're not around people that are actually supporting what your dreams are, and it stinks because it usually takes people a long time to realize that.
Yeah, I mean, for me too, I think I dedicated the 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift with Gary Vee on YouTube. I wish earlier Ray Dalio, but just like constantly, like when no one was up with me, I used those guys as mentors, list just in my ear constantly. Cause I was like, no sane person would work 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. every single day, then wake up 6, go to the workouts. Cause I was 60 pounds heavier. So I was like, I was obese and I'm like, I got to go work out on top of this and work my job. So it's just like, it takes a crazy person to do it, right? And it takes there's a lot of days where you can hit the snooze button, roll over and go. But, if you don't have that group around you, leverage YouTube in a positive way of like the Jocko Willings, the David Goggins, like whatever you need to do to get you juiced up, ready to take on the world, do it. People think you're crazy, but, entrepreneurship can be a lonely road to the top. So just make sure, obviously, you surround yourself with those people that can help you get you there.
Yeah, especially now with all the Zoom groups out there, like, you can throw a rock on the internet and hit, 50 different internet Zoom type accountability groups. So that shouldn't be an issue these days.
So recording in early November, how has COVID affected your portfolio under management and your underwriting assumptions?
So our properties being mostly in East Tennessee, no issues, to be honest. We've been probably 94 to 96% collected each month in that range. So collections and operations wise, it was I don't want to say dumpster fire, but it was just chaos, right? This rule changed, this person said this. What about Kentucky? Because we have properties in Kentucky. And so it's just like I feel like everyone was in first grade again, trying to learn how to read of like what we can and cannot do. So operationally, because we're vertically integrated, we have our own property management. So we just come in and we're like, every day was a test day. And so we're communicating to our residents. Underwriting, we've seen valuations go up. So we already weren't doing a ton of deals because they weren't making sense. So when it came to the underwriting and just seeing our spread of what's going wrong or what we could pay for, just go light years ahead, because we've seen a lot of newer assets and a lot of way older assets. So for us, though, we just stress test a lot. We do no income increase. Can we pay our mortgage? I think that's a big one. We stress test too of how much room we can bump, because we've increased rents during COVID and it's been received well and we've had no issues with our occupancy. But for us too, just getting back to the basics of if you operate fundamentally well, you'll still operate, residents will get taken care of and residents will pay. But underwriting wise, it's, really find the spreads in your rent increases, hone in on your OpEx. We've had to do the P&I reserves, which we've leveraged as CapEx in year 2. But, you just kind of have to get creative with it. Will Coleman was a huge resource for us, who's our internal mortgage broker at Rand Capital. He provided a ton of resources, breaking news, what's going on, what size loans need what. If you go Fannie versus Freddie, if you have no idea what our terms are, reach out to Will Coleman at will@randcre.com, because he's just a wealth of knowledge and when it comes to the financing piece.
Nice. We actually just did, Duke and I just did like an hour ago, up until this call, we just stress tested one of the deals that we're working on, a 57 unit. And we did all of those things. We did 0 rent growth through the first year, 0 new additional income. So we didn't go in and start adding rubs right out, so we did none of that. We did like a 15% 15% average vacancy, economic vacancy through year one or through stabilization or something like that. Increased stabilization period like 18 months, and still seeing if the deal works. And then if it doesn't, we pretty much made the deal as bad as possible. And then seeing how we had to walk off the price to see where it started making sense again. And it's always a good exercise to do that, especially with whenever you're doing that, always should have somebody else there looking at the numbers with you. That way you have a fresh set of eyes. And I think that's one of the best things we do as a team when it comes to underwriting, because you know how it is. Like you look at spreadsheets for hours and hours and hours, like your eyes just start like physically, like you can't see certain numbers anymore just because you've been looking at the spreadsheet so long, that it's always good to have like a second set of eyes on there to make sure and keep asking questions, keep poking holes to make sure that you're checking all the boxes and you're not.
Or you go down that rabbit hole of what if the world ends and this and that. And so then by the end of it, you're like, oh my God, this deal is terrible. And you're like, well, the world needs to end. Insurance needs to double by tomorrow. Taxes go up 30%. Like all these things need to happen. And even then we're kind of okay. So that's where you need that, Duke to pull you out of the rabbit hole and go, hey man, it's still a good deal. Cause I do that too. And I'm like, am I crazy? And everyone's like, no, I mean, but that's a good point to have that spotter with you in the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always one of the best things we do as an underwriting team is to have that built into our system. So you mentioned some a little bit that the pull yourself out of that rabbit hole. So I have a lot of friends and colleagues that are very analytical, and
me too.
I know, and that's why I'm asking. So very analytical, and they are absolutely paralyzed by like analysis paralysis. Like they will find something wrong with every single deal they look at, and it'll go years without ever doing a deal, right? Like we start, a couple years ago, like we were on kind of the same trajectory, and then all of a sudden, like they just can't seem to get a deal because they're always finding something wrong with the deal. So coming from a very analytical frame of reference like you, CPA, I don't think it gets more analytical than that. Like, how have you been able to overcome that?
So I'm going to say something that's going to scare every analytical person. Get out of the spreadsheet, right? Take a step back and ask yourself, does the deal make sense? Do I love the market? Does it check all the boxes? Population growth, job diversity, job sector growth, diversity. Do I love the submarket? Does it have the median income? Does it have it all? Good employers, good. It's where you want to be. Is the property good? How are the roofs, the bones, all that good stuff? Does it need major capex? Is it occupied? And then the financials, right? Can I increase rent or other income, or can I decrease expenses? Because in the end, that's what matters. It's the story, right? Like, I think investors, especially the newer ones, are like, oh, the IRR, do I explain that? It's like, no. Everyone loves stories. So does the story of the entire, does that property, does that deal check all of those boxes? The market, submarket, property financials. If not, don't do the deal. And if you don't feel comfortable with the deal, don't do it. But if it checks all those boxes and it's like, plus or minus a few things you could tweak and it goes wrong. But if it checks all those, just do it. Even Vince, that weekend we were out together, I'm like, yeah, I don't know about the exit. Or like, do it, man. Worst case, you have an okay deal, and it's still better than no deal. So, you just take a step back, look at the macro, and really just see yourself, does it do these things? If not, then dive deeper and get comfortable with it. But I can make a deal look terrible by just deleting rent growth for an entire hold. And then it's like, oh man, it didn't hit 20 IRR or 15 IRR.
Yeah.
So it's just make sure it checks the box on those macro items. Get out of the spreadsheet, do the damn thing, and you'll learn and grow and do deal 2, deal 3, deal 4, or be like Vince and have probably 5 this quarter.
Yeah. And also, and if you're looking at yourself, for again, the viewer or the listener here, like you're looking at something like this is you, find a partner that is like the opposite of you. Like if you're like the super analytical, like, spreadsheet type person, then find somebody that's like a little bit more like out there, a little bit more risky, a little bit more just like kind of send it, we'll make it happen type mentality. And like, we'll just, our work ethic will carry this through kind of thing. And that way you kind of balance each other out. Because otherwise, yeah, you're going to, like I said, I have so many friends that are just like, they're still like trying to find their first duplex from like 4 years ago. They're still looking for it. And I'm like, dude, you guys are like,
if you bought it, I guarantee if it was anywhere in the United States, you could have doubled your money.
Absolutely. Right. And, but yeah, that's good. Okay. So we already talked about stress test and modeling. That was one of the questions I had. So big question here, as people start, so they get into real estate, they get a couple single families, they get their first taste of multifamily, the small duplexes, fourplexes, and now they want to step up to this commercial side. And they start hearing things like asset management. And I found myself explaining a lot like what the difference between being a landlord and property manager is and what being an asset manager is. So what is your take on that difference? And then
so the landlord is like that one person who runs that. So I think of it as like, when you got your single family, it's you doing it. So you're the landlord. Then the property manager is like, has more properties, but they're handling the day to day. So think of it more of a scale. They have a maintenance crew, they have a leasing agent, they're taking care of portfolios. From there, they're handling the day to day bills, getting paid. The asset manager, I always hear manages the manager, but really it's a collaboration piece and just making sure keeping everyone accountable. Because I, as the asset manager for Rand Partners and Rand Commercial Real Estate, I need to make sure we're hitting our numbers so I have to make sure our property management is handling the day-to-day, increasing rents and getting our occupancy up, charging other income and reducing expenses. Because we could be doing all those things, but hey, if we're putting gold toilets, gold flooring, it's not going to cut it. We can't pay our investors. So you're a fiduciary to our investors. So the asset manager sits over the property management and keeps them accountable because those investors are going to keep you accountable, making sure you're paying them. So we do it's a collaborative effort. So I don't want to make it, I think when you say manage the manager, it's a collaboration piece because I could say until I'm blue in the face that flooring should be $1.50 a square foot, but really their property management, there's zero chance this is going to happen. So it's a back and forth, a give and take of like budgets. We have a weekly pulse that we can share with you guys where we go over occupancy, our marketing numbers, how many people are checking in on the property versus applying, our income and expenses, our delinquencies. So every week we have them fill out this form so we can see where the property is. And then we just make sure, are we hitting our metrics? So yeah, I think it's just important to make sure that you're collaborating, not barking or managing at them, because property management is what makes or breaks every single deal. Because you could buy right, you get the best financing, but if you can't execute the day-to-day, you're done in the water. So it's important to make sure you have, as an asset manager, you have plenty of options of property management. We're vertically integrated, so we're always hiring. But if you're not, and you're looking to kind of get more into the properties, the property management, make sure you have several options, because if there's only one person in town and they're not cutting it, your investor is going to be rut-row. So I think that's kind of the dive in the landlord, property management, and asset management piece.
And I think the only, all good points. The only thing I would add on that would be like the asset manager has like the plan. Like they're the ones with the business plan. They're the ones with the vision. They're the ones with the 1 year, the 3 year, the 5 year, the 10 year, whatever the goal is. Like they're executing the business plan, because the property managers, like they're in, like you said, the day to day. So they're head down and they're like, they're not really stepping back and seeing, okay, 6 months out, what's the repercussions of me, leasing this unit at $25 under market. Well, the asset manager can say, whoa. Like it might only see $25 to you, but you just cost our investors, $6,000 in value, forced depreciation that we just gave up. Right. So
even on a refinance too, $25 times 12 months, divide that by 6 cap.
Yeah.
You just hurt that valuation by a lot. And even on the collections too. So it's
it's like, the property managers are like, they're a lot of face down. They're just doing that day to day, but the asset managers, like they're up above, they're kind of seeing ahead a couple miles, and they're able to make those decisions of, where the ship's going, because they're executing the business plan. Good stuff. So you already mentioned some of your best practices. And I think for ours, it's definitely that weekly pulse check that we do. What are some other best practices for asset management?
I think showing up at the property, right? I know, Vince, it's a little bit harder for you being in Hawaii, but even then you're still making efforts to go out when you can, because nothing's like that face-to-face of just being a part of a team. And I think just too, making sure you have your feedback rhythm. So we have our weekly, I'll check in daily, I'll shoot text, but feedback is like a wave. If it's, good or bad, it's smaller waves, but if you don't get any feedback for a while, it's gonna be a tidal wave of bad news probably coming your way. So just making sure you're constantly getting caught up. And Q4, it's that amazing time for budgets. So no one talks about how sexy the budgets are, but these are the roadmap of making sure you're hitting your goals and your metrics. So it's just, we have our, going through our income, going through our expenses, what drives it, and just making sure, we're collaborating with our property management team to make sure we're executing on it. So they're fun. They're not, every year it gets a little bit easier, but it allows you and your team to work together, build it together, because then if a property manager isn't consistently hitting a particular number, you can go, hey, why are we hitting this? And you might have to pivot from that property management group. So just like I said, asset management keeps everyone accountable.
Especially when you solicit their help, like you said, it's collaborative. If they help you build the budget and they help you make those KPIs, then they shouldn't have any excuse of why they can't hit them. You know what I mean? Like 100%. If they said, oh, we can do maintenance and repairs, we can keep that under, $550 a door per year. And then all of a sudden you're getting, like you said, we're rounding Q4 now. And they're like, hey, you're on track to hit like, $700-800 a year. Like, what's up? Like, you came up with this number. Like, this is your number that we put on the budget, and now you can't hit your own number. So what's going on?
And I think too, checking monthly, because if it happens one time, it's not like you're whipping them like, what the heck? But if it's 2, 3, 4 months in a row, you're like, okay, guys, what is going on? So it allows you to ask the question of what happened and why. But as you get extensive and you're just like, oh, I need to let them go, it also gives them the reason why they're no longer managing.
Absolutely. All right. My last question here. So what is your favorite thing, strategy or trick or whatever you want to call it, to increase NOI by either increasing income or decreasing expenses? Like, what's your go-to thing that you do on every deal, or at least try to do?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is living in Chicago, it's the security deposit thing. So I was being in Michigan, I was like always having security deposits. But in Chicago, we always charge move-in fees. So in Chicago, if you don't, you charge a security deposit, it accrues interest. If you don't pay back that 10 cents of interest back to the resident, you'll lawyers for free will represent the tenant or the resident, take you to court, and you'll lose 3x the deposit you charged plus court fees. So to prevent any of that from happening, we do move-in fees. It ends up being $450, half of first month's rent usually. So ours are around $450 charged per, on the move-in. And from there, you're taking that money that'd be on your balance sheet, kind of stored it away in a savings account, and you're putting that as revenue. That revenue increases your valuation because people should be moving in all the time. If not, they're staying. But that's a good piece. Implement rubs and pet fees have been a big one for us. But we're generally as another income, we're shooting for 8 to 12% other income as a total percentage of total income. So I think people talk about boosting rents or cutting expenses, but that other income piece is like a good juice that we see. But make sure it's, very market dependent. So really make sure you're not just doing a wild card comparative to your competition when you're managing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it definitely, with the implementation now, or the wide exception of surety bonds, has definitely helped boost that other income now that we can do things like Rhino. And that way you're not doing like a security deposit and a move-in fee. You can still get, while you're still getting that protection. So you're not just getting a move-in fee without having any protection. You're getting a move-in fee and a surety bond for, whatever, $1,000, $2,000, something like that. So
yeah. And we require all of our residents to have renter's insurance. And so it's protection on protection. So it's just making sure they're protecting them from themselves, because stuff happens all the time, and also to protect your building as well. So it's just a good case to educate your residents on making sure how to asset protect them as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome tip. So yeah, shifting gears to our fire round. What is the best book that you recommend other than Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
I love the caveat. Ray Dalio Principles. It's not an easy read, but it makes you really think of, how to build your business, live your life. So huge fan of Ray Dalio, and he's just reading that book. He became a mentor of mine, and just can't talk enough about how amazing that book is.
Yeah, it's I got it on Audible. What is it, like 60 something hours? Like it was like, oh my God.
I carry it with me, to be honest, like all the way through. So I'm always carrying it, reflecting on it, and you'll read like 3 principles, and you're like, oh man, I just thought for 2 hours and just was like, how do I do this? Implement this principle. So love that book.
Yeah, he's definitely an excellent thought leader. All right, what is your superpower?
Excel shortcuts.
I knew you were going to say that.
So anyone who uses Excel and uses a mouse, cut it, unplug it. That's use the keyboard. It's the game changer. Pretty much anytime you have to click something, there's a faster way to do it. So EY did taught me that. My first day, I came to like the cocky college graduate. Oh, I know how to use Excel. And then I blinked, and then this guy had 1 Excel, and then there's 3. I was like, what happened? So Excel shortcuts, learn 1 a week. It'll change your life, I promise.
Definitely take that advice. I'm using the mouse way too much.
And get a little PC, because Mac Excel. I'm a Mac guy, but not when it comes to Excel.
I think one of the things we have is like we have some stuff on Google Sheets just so it's easier to collaborate.
It's not the same.
But then, when you download it and try to transfer, like stuff gets messed up, and
it's very frustrating when someone says it's the same. And you're like,
it really isn't, and it's frustrating because I
can't handle like the sensitivity tables and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So.
But then it's like, then you run into version, outrage when you have it, because Duke's underwriting a model, and then I'm writing a model, and you're like, oh, what's the latest model? So that's why the Google Sheets would help, but then it's nowhere near as powerful.
That's why I use Asana for all our deal flow. We have all of our notes in and upload it with our initials, so then we always know.
Yep, and that's where we're at now. Is always whatever the one's in Asana, that's supposed to be the most updated one.
Perfect.
So, what is the biggest lesson that you've learned over your career?
Biggest lesson: just believe in myself sooner, and it'll all work out. I think, with the people surrounding me, and my limiting beliefs, and doing accounting for 5 years, and I worked with a lot of amazing people, but I think even to you guys, everyone wishes they did real estate years sooner. So I started when I was 25. I wish I did it when I was 18. So just believe in myself sooner to do it, and then just go all in and commit, and you'll figure, it's not just a straight line to the top. You'll have your good days, your bad days, and just keep grinding through it, and it'll all work out.
For the busy working professional who's working towards financial freedom, what advice or tip do you have?
Network with people who you aspire or want to do business with, and see how they're doing it. I know I was working 80 hours a week, and the last thing I'm going to tell you is work 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. every single day. That's how much I aspire to get out of accounting. But if you just want to learn more until you find your path and what it is, just network with people, Facebook, LinkedIn. I don't want to say Instagram, but by whatever, because Instagram's a whole other rabbit hole. But I'd say Facebook and LinkedIn of people who are doing it and helping and reaching out, and network with them. And so that, even if it's one small aspect you can help them with, you can add value to their life and their business and help them. And then who knows, that could put you on a deal, get you connected with another member, and, the rest could be history. So just keep networking with people with what you want to do.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. You've been super generous with your advice.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. And if anyone has any questions for me, you can reach out to Mike T at ransiri.com. I'm happy to help everyone on the passive side or Excel shortcuts, whatever it is. I'm happy to help serve.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so you guys have a podcast, and it's one of my favorites. Definitely my top 2 favorite podcasts, because there's a lot of podcasts out there that are very kind of that lower level, that are designed for that newer entrant into the market. I love how yours is definitely the high level. So if you've already done a few deals and you're looking for a little bit more sophisticated podcast, the Rand CRE, was it the Rand CRE show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely some high level concepts being discussed with high level, high operating people that you will and the guests you have. So definitely go check that out. I'm going to definitely plug that.
Appreciate it, Vince. And for all those who are listening to this podcast, Vince has said no to our podcast 3 times because he's so busy. So reach out to Vince and get him on the show already.
We'll do it. Once we get these 3 deals done, I tell you, we'll have some good stories.
That'll do 5 deals this quarter, like I said.
Yeah.
No, but we can't wait to have you on, Vince, and just add as much value to your listeners and our listeners, and just help make the world a smarter place when it comes to real estate.
Awesome. That was an awesome show, Duc. Having Mike on, a good friend of mine from Rand Capital. Work with him with the Jake and Gino community. Always provides value to everyone within the community, outside the community. Definitely always dropping bombs. And, things I took away from this was, those big tips on asset management. Some of the things like the importance of having a centralized program for asset management. Like we talked a little bit after the call of how they use Asana, we use Asana as that main project management hub. Everything goes through there, and just being able to stay organized when you're getting these deals moving and making sure they stay on track and people stay accountable to the tasks they're given. So asset management was also was a big topic on this call. I also enjoyed the stress testing, how he approached the stress testing modeling, especially during COVID. This is November 1st, 2020. We're still in this thing of COVID. So how is he underwriting? How is he stress testing his models? And then on the other side of that, I definitely loved his comments on the mindset of what happens when you're too analytical and you're being too critical of your underwriting, and you find something wrong with every single deal you do, and then years go by and you've never done a deal. I know that somebody like him, like a CPA, like Mike, definitely can fall into that trap of like the spreadsheet is God, the spreadsheet is everything, and they will find a deal or something wrong with every single deal. So being able to be conscious of that and either being able to pull themselves out of that trap of analysis paralysis, or like I suggested, if you're that kind of person, then get a teammate that is like the exact opposite personality of you. That way they can kind of that yin yang balance of you're really good on the numbers and you can think critically on that, but they're going to be the ones that are like, at some point we just have to do this thing and figure it out. And we just have to jump in and burn the ship behind us. Because otherwise we're never going to do deals. So if you have that personality that has analysis, that suffers from analysis process when you're looking at deals and underwriting, try to find somebody that is a little bit more outgoing, that is willing to accept a little bit more risk and just go do the thing and gain the experience that way, and is willing to make it happen. Yeah, those are the big notes I took away. What about you?
No, it's just the Excel shortcuts. I mean, I got to build up on my Excel skills, apparently.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're interested in connecting with us, go to tricityequity.com to learn more. To connect with like-minded investors, join our Facebook group, Honolulu Multifamily and More. If you found value in this podcast, please subscribe and give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. If you know anyone who might resonate with today's podcast, please share the episode with them. See you next time.